although I'm hoping everyone's enjoying this conversation, but we want to talk about backups and business continuity and what the difference between that is.
Yes. And that, that's a common question that we explain a lot of the time. And we have to explain the difference between, what is business continuity and what is backup. You have, that's your gig. So I figured I'd let you take a kick at the can and explain to us, what are those things and what are the differences? So, work your magic, Desraie.
Sweet.
Wow these people.
Yay! I hope so. I hope I wow people. We're gonna keep it pretty short, but we wanted to really point out to you and talk to you guys about why we need to change your expectations around backup. What is, when you're backing up your computers, why do you even need to worry about if your backup's working and how often you're backing up, and why do you need to be having these conversations with your business and with your staff? To start this, we want to talk about just talking about RPO and RTO. And the reason why we have a business continuity conversation relies pretty heavily around this whole theory. RPO would be how often you're backing up your information. So say you might be a business who, if you back up your information once a week, and then say you're backing up every Monday, and on Friday, you all of a sudden lose that backup. And you can lose that whole week of work, those whole 5 days, and that's okay to your business. But chances are most businesses, as we've seen in the last couple of years, you can't just get up and change everything. You can't just roll back. You can't lose a week's worth of information. You can't be a business and lose a week's worth of being open. That can be really, really harmful, especially as we're moving into this. I know we're right now moving into a phase where things are closing up again. So every dollar a business makes is really, really important. So how often are you backing things up? You might be a university who needs to back up every hour or however. And thinking about that when we're kind of going through the rest of this conversation, when we talk about RTO, RTO would be how quickly can you be back up and running if a disaster was to happen. So say if one of your staff or employees was being super nice and deleted a bunch of information, but accidentally deleted a file that you really, really needed, how quickly, and to run your business, they deleted a file by accident because they thought they were nice, the file is gone, and how quickly can you recreate that moment to get your business back up and running? Or maybe you do get hit with ransomware. And what if you get hit with ransomware and all of a sudden, I think the average, your average time to get it back to exactly the way you were is something like 267 days. Don't quote me on the exact date, but something along that lines. So if you were a business who say, and that's just getting back to exactly where you were, but if you're a business and it's going to take you get hit with ransomware, and even to get close where you can start doing business still, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. Can your business afford that? And that's where the rest of this, when we do this presentation, I just want you to keep that in mind. Because ransomware.
Just really quickly, if you want to go back that slide, just to re-explain those acronyms. So RPO stands for
Recovery Point Objective.
Okay,
and then Recovery Time Objective.
Okay, so what is your recovery points? What point in time do you want to recover to, and at what allowable time do you have to recover? So those are great reference points. So cool.
Perfect. Thank you. I got to remember to use less acronyms. I've been practicing.
Well, yeah, just not everybody remembers those things. And I even get confused and I forget I know what they mean, but I forget the words that they use to.
Totally understand. The reason why we have to have those conversations is because the fact of the matter is ransomware is running rapid. We see it in the news every day. It's completely an epidemic. We saw that the total paid by ransoms, or the total ransom paid by small to medium-sized business, see acronym, is over 750 million plus. And that number is just the amount that the government recognizes. So in order for the government to find that out, it's usually something to do with insurance. You get hit with ransomware, your insurance company says, hey, you need to let the government know, let the FBI know, or whoever that happened. So that's just the amount of money that the the person who's got hit has let them know. But I guarantee you there's so many businesses out there that aren't going to make that call. And we know ransomware is running rapid because even just in the news, realizing a lot of these aren't even hitting the news, we're seeing monthly releases about ransomware attacks hitting everything from health firms to universities to schools to hospitals to lawyers. It's across the field. There's not one industry that is hitting. It's every single industry across the board, because let's face it, you guys have valuable businesses and the information that you have is valuable enough to you that you will pay if you get hit, which we're clearly seeing by that 750 million plus.
And we know for sure that whistleblowers are coming out every day, even in large corporations, that they have covered up, downplayed, misrepresented, delayed reporting on these types of breaches. And then small companies that are at they have no responsibility to report. They're just not reporting. They don't want this. They don't want this reputation out there. If they don't have to report, they're not doing it. So that's only really, I would say that's the tip of the iceberg. There's probably way more happening beneath the surface that we don't know about.
Yeah. And then sadly, we're even seeing the US government start to take notice. And as of October 1st, they announced that the Americans who pay might actually face US sanctions if they pay. And that goes down to who are you paying when you are paying ransomware? Well, you're paying the dark web, the bad guys, the horrible of horrible. So in the dark web, this is where all of those things that keep you up at night and make you worried about your kids and your life and everything, that's where this money is being transferred. And that's who you're giving your money to, all of those horrible people. So as much as we see that in the US, Andreas, you were just saying that we're hearing it already coming across in Canada.
We were talking with Sean from our cybersecurity expert, insurance expert, and he was saying that the Canadian Government Privacy Commissioner they're looking at a way of making it, potentially making it illegal for them to pay ransom. So once you get it, even if you have cybersecurity insurance, you won't be able to pay it in order to get your information back. So they're trying to shut these guys out. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, as you can see. So how the government's response is to say you become the criminal if you pay it,
which is fair. So
it's fair, but it puts you in an ethical position. Do you let your company go out of business, or do you pay the ransom?
So how do you protect yourself from all this craziness?
Right.
Good news. This is why we stopped talking about traditional backup and we start talking about business continuity. The easiest way to talk about business continuity is to first talk about what's not continuity. So think about what you have. How are you storing your backups within your business? Mm-hmm. For any of the business owners or people who are watching, if you are using cloud only, that's not continuity. If something was to happen, you're not going to be able to access that information. Or local only, including tape. The number of times I've talked to business owners where they're like, yeah, we have a tape. When was the last time you tested that tape? Where is the tape? Does it even work? And chances are, I actually have never had anyone say they knew exactly, they tested all the time, everything's works, ever. No one's ever answered that way.
Yeah, and we see this misconception all the time. And one to add to your list is when they say that I have disk redundancy. Okay, just because you have disk redundancy, that's not backup, right? Because that's not points in time that you can restore to. But we see this misconception all the time. People say, oh yeah, well, that's backed up to the cloud, or that's backed up locally to a NAS or something like that, or it's backed up to a tape, or it's backed up, or if we got copies of the files that we take, on a random basis. Yeah, that's not business continuity, because when we start walking them through, okay, if it's cloud only, if you've got 10 terabytes of data or 3 terabytes of data, and you're downloading that from the internet, how long is that going to take? Do a test. It's probably going to take you 24, 48 hours to do a terabyte. Depending on your internet connection. So 24 to 48 hours per terabyte, multiply that along what you have. It has to be usable right away. You're not going to get that with cloud. Local only as well, including tape. again, how and file based as well. You've got to get the operating system back on the server. You got to get it back up and running. Then you got to copy all that data back. What is that read write time to copy across that network to do that restore? It has to be quick enough. And when we do the calculations for companies, it's 24, 48 hours for that piece as well. So it's like, okay, now you're down for 24, 72 hours, and you start to do the math, and then they go, yeah, that's not good enough. But if nobody walks you through the math, you just think you have a backup. That's not business continuity.
Yeah, exactly. When you're talking about business continuity, it's, going back to what is continuity, talking about that RPO and RTO calculator. If you have to roll back and it takes you a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to roll back to the previous version, that's not continuity, because you're going to lose a whole bunch of business during that time. So continuity is your hybrid cloud-based backup. So you need to have it to be not just cloud. You need to have it so that you have a local copy and a cloud-based. So you have a cloud-based and a secondary cloud-based, because let's face it, if something really bad was to happen and you had all your data stored in a data center in Toronto, and then all of a sudden Toronto, the building gets on fire and all that data is gone, well, you need a secondary backup as well, such as with our solution, we have Calgary and Toronto. You need an image-based backup to be able to, like, if my computer smashes right now, I can go to my husband's computer and it would take me very little time to be able to do this exact presentation with you, because it's the way you use your computer on an everyday basis with all the programs and everything, the way you're used to using it. The point of this is delivering that superior RTO and RPO, limiting all your downtime. So when this does happen, whether it be as big as ransomware getting hit, or whether it be as small as an employee deleting a file that they shouldn't have, you need to be able to have it so that didn't actually happen and you can continue doing your job. And then with virtualization, like I said, I can go in and use any computer and virtualize into the cloud and use a computer as things are getting fixed. So all super important.
And I'll tell you, I would say probably at least 60% of the times that we see people utilizing their local virtualization or their local backup hybrid solution, or even their cloud solution, is hardware failure, some type of hardware that we can't replace in a quick amount of time. It's something major, whether it's a major internet router or something like that, and they have to fail over to the cloud, or they have to fail over locally because the servers failed and they can't get a part for a day or two, and or some type of bad patch or update that takes down their server and they've got to restore to a previous point in time. So those are the two most common occurrences that are very, very hard to mitigate, right? They're just
exactly
business as usual.
Business as usual. And then, so when you're looking at different solutions, because there is a lot out there, and now we've gotten to the point where we understand why we need to have a business continuity solution, and why just having a backup, we don't know how quickly it's going to get you back up and running. You're not sure if it's tested. You don't know if you had a fire in the office, if you're able to go to the cloud, or any of those steps. You need to find a solution that actually provides your business continuity. But then to top it off, what if your solution actually included ransomware detection? Talk about all these scary things. So with ransomware detection in the back end, when you accidentally click something, every time you do a backup, each backup has a screenshot verification that actually notifies saying, hey, this backup's legit. It works. We know this. That already is a huge thing to help protect and save you guys, because that's going to help you sleep at night. Instead of having to test it yourself, it's already done in the back end. So a screenshot verification. So then now you have 1 point and then 2 points. And then all of a sudden it notices between point A and then point B that there's a payload difference. Something's weird. Something's wrong. The system actually notifies and says, hey, there's suspicious activity. Let's roll back to the previous version. You only lost, if you're backing up every hour, you lost an hour of work. Roll back to the previous version before you accidentally click the wrong thing that you shouldn't have, or your employees click the wrong thing you shouldn't have. And then we expedite to restore and delete the ransomware, and everything's fixed in the backend before you ever have to do anything. So it's another safety mechanism. And that's something when you're talking about business continuity, it's a great feature to have. So And then we continue the conversation and talking about continuity. Well, if we're going to talk about continuity, we need to talk about continuity for all our devices. This includes SaaS. I don't know about you, Andreas, but I open up my email first thing in the morning and it's the last thing I do at night. Mm-hmm. I could not function if I lost my emails today.
And it's the first thing that people use, and it's the last thing they think about when they're applying their backup strategy. Mm-hmm. They forget about the OneDrive, the contacts, the calendar, the email, the calendar, what's happening in their day. That's they're dead without it, but they forget about it.
Yeah. Right. And what's even funnier is we're going to go over some statistics here on why you need this. But even looking at this slide and looking at everything that we're using on a day-to-day basis, take a second to realize that in both Office 365 and both Microsoft NG and Google, they actually state in their SLAs that you need to use they recommend you use a third-party supplier to back up this information because they're not responsible if that information lost. That's that when you click, I read the terms and conditions, I agree. That's what you agreed to. You agreed that they're not responsible for any losses. And if they lose any information, it's your responsibility to back it up. And then to continue further, realizing this. And
before you go on there, and also the basic backup, they'll only deliver you the first, I believe it's the first 10 gigs or something like that of email. They don't guarantee your whole mailbox. If you've got a 25 gig mailbox, which isn't unheard of nowadays, they're going to give you 10 gigs of it or 15 gigs of it. Whether both Google and Microsoft have limitations on what they will restore. So if your entire mailbox is deleted, you're going to get 10 gigs of your mail. What is it? The first 10 gigs? Or the last 10 gigs? I don't know. You want to roll that dice? I don't.
Mm-mm. And so furthermore, that the SLAs say that you should protect. And then thinking about, okay, well, why? The reason why is even 1 in 3 companies lose SaaS data. And these aren't necessarily like attacks or bad things happening. These are just data loss caused by end user deletions. So you might have that new employee, Bobby or Susie, who come into the office and are super on it and organizing, and they're just brilliant. And they start cleaning things up. They see files and folders that have just been sitting there for years and no one's touched anything. So they just start deleting things and organizing. And then next thing you know, 90 days, 120 days, 230 days later, you try to go find that file and it's gone. Or what if you have an employee who's been with you a really long time and all of a sudden they get that notification saying, hey, your email, your accounts, you're not getting any emails until you start deleting things. So they start deleting things. And then next thing you know, they accidentally deleted a file for a presentation in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Going back to the RPO and RTO, if they deleted a file that's a presentation in 10 minutes and it takes them 20 minutes, an hour to figure it out, that's not adequate. Where if they have a solution in place, they can keep up, they can easily, quickly go back up and running to the point where they were. And then we talk about the malicious acts. Luckily, this number is quite low, but we're seeing this number. I wouldn't doubt if we have this conversation in a year from now, this number will be a lot higher. Even if you consider the fact that it is money, people need to make money. There's a lot of people off work. There's a lot of people who need to feed their families. And so you have ransomware as a service that's being sold. And if you are savvy enough and are willing to go that route to feed your family, it sucks. But this is why we hope that businesses have a plan in place. Mm-hmm. And then we talk again about Ransomcloud. Ransomcloud is, if you've never heard it, this is the newest form of ransomware. This is ransomware that's specifically focused on these solutions. And it is easy to miss, even with all the staff training, all the conversations we're having, and you've watched our presentations and you thought we were awesome and you learned so many things. But let's face it, we're all really, really busy. Summer's coming up. I know I go camping all the time, and at 3 p.m. on Friday, there's a lot of times that I might not necessarily be looking at my emails as closely. Or Andreas, there might be times where your kids are in the office with you and maybe you're not reading your emails. You want to get on the road. You want to get out of the office. Right. And so you see something like this. This looks legit. You hover over it. It's legit. Everything, all your training says, yes, you're heading out the door. You're busy. And then all of a sudden you click the button and you get a red screen of death. Now, if it's Friday at 3, you might want to close your computer and just don't deal with that. Don't do that. I mean, I've never done that.
Well, you might think you might think it's spam, which is what we find.
Oh, wow.
Right? Is it? People think it's spam and they leave it. and they don't report it till Monday. And it's much harder to roll back after that.
Yeah. So this is an example of Ransomcloud on how hackers are now infecting your emails and all the systems that those SaaS applications you're in on a day-to-day basis. So to go back, talked about RPO, so your recovery point objective, and realizing how often do you have to be backing up your information within your business, that where if you were to lose all the information at that point, it's okay, because an hour ago you backed up, 2 hours ago you backed up, 3 hours ago you backed up. What is that number? And that probably off the top of your head, you're not going to know. But I have something awesome for you that in just a slide here. And then RTO, once again, your recovery time objective, or how quickly can you be back up and running if and when a disaster was to happen, or how quickly can you access that file, that folder, anything within your business if something was to happen. If the answer there is you're not quite sure, go ahead, Andreas.
And not all SaaS recovery tools are the same as well. Some of the SaaS recovery tools, they allow you to restore the entire mailbox. So you have to download the entire mailbox. Then you can extract individual messages or calendar items or whatever. So having the proper SaaS protection, it allows you to do individual items and do it quickly. So your IT team can respond and get something restored quickly. Again, when you're selecting your tool, it's kind of what you want to do. So.
Awesome. So all important, both agree, but that can probably that's a pretty overwhelming thought in trying to figure out what that cost to your business would actually be. So this is why we have a calculator for you. Andreas can help you out with this at any point in time. Please reach out. But this is 10 simple questions. There's 6 current data storage questions and 4 state of the business. And by the end of this, you'll actually know what your hourly cost of downtime is. So you have that educated decision. You can sleep at night. You know what the risk is to your business.
We're working on trying to incorporate this into the website. So we're going to have it up, and we should have the link down below for this.
Perfect. Excellent. With that,
now
you're headed in the right direction. You're amazing. You're set up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And also, just to add on to the SaaS protection, one of the common things that we do with the SaaS protection is when an employee leaves, we typically will restore all the mail that was deleted in the last 90 to 120 days.
Oh, wow. I like that idea. I'd never thought of that. I hope my boss didn't do that.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly why. So in every company that we've put that in as a policy for, they continue to do it because they see the value in it. Because typically what happens is people who are leaving the company typically know that they're leaving before they're leaving. And then they start the cleanup process and they start to delete messages. And sometimes they'll delete some dirty laundry. It's not just personal stuff that they delete. It's a lot of the time it's dirty laundry. So you don't want to be named in a lawsuit or anything like that for something that somebody's emailed out, or maybe they've emailed themselves their company contact list or their client list or something like that. So it's always provided fruitful enough that they keep asking us to do it. So just a little tidbit of information for people that if for nothing else, the backup helps is useful continually just for that purpose. If you wanted to use it for that purpose alone, it's still worth its weight in gold.
Awesome. Did you have fun?
As always, you know what? It's a lot of information. It's a lot to swallow, but I think, look, this is why we're here, right? It's repeating a lot of the same stuff over and over again, for us anyways. But a lot of people have heard this for the first time, right? So giving them an understanding of what a proper backup solution looks like, how that's, it's not just about backup, it's about that business continuity, and thinking about it slightly different. And people say, oh, I have RAID, I have backup. No, you don't. I have a NAS, or I have a copy of my files. You don't have a backup. You have copies. You can't restore a file from Tuesday at 3:00 when it got corrupted, or to get that specific entry that is lost, and everybody needs it in order to be able to balance something that's going to save us days and days of work. You need to have those points in time, and you need to have that understanding of what your recovery time looks like. So hugely educational. That's why I let you present. And I asked you to present. I asked you, I let you present slides because we don't typically do slide decks. It's mostly conversations here. But I really wanted to see, because again, I think it's so pointed and so direct. And again, that illustration, it just really helps people hone in on what they need to be looking at. So that's why we decided, hey, you know what, I'd rather just let you present your wares, and this is what you do, and you know it very well. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I had a good time as always. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I appreciate you. Cheers, everyone else, for watching. Thank you so much for taking your time of the day and paying attention to us. That's awesome.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.